Hi, it's Brett Hill here. If you thought last year's Wellness Summit was big, just wait for the 2015 edition. There's new speakers, a new venue, new exhibitors, new everything, and we would love to have you there. Our selection of 2-for-1 tickets sold out in less than 48 hours last year, so if you want to join 600 like-minded health and wellness enthusiasts, as well as your favourite Wellness Couch podcasters, then make sure you go to www.thewellnesscouch.com and register for the early bird list.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Mara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And our beautiful Cindy's not here.
No, she's not.
Never mind. She's off gallivanting and traveling as usual. So we have got somebody extra special to fill in for her today. And we've got, we've had so much feedback and we've had so many messages and comments on the shows that we've done that were since the passing of Jess, that we really wanted to dive deep into Jess's life and bring the people who were important to her to you so that you guys can start to see and experience what it was like to live like Jess used to live and to experience the kind of insightful inspiration that she used to experience and to hang out with, honestly, some of the most profoundly beautiful human beings. And today, really, our guest is a shining example of a profoundly beautiful human being. I want to introduce you all to Amanda Rootsey. Amanda, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. We are honoured to have you on the show with us today.
Super. I'm so honoured to be here, and thank you for such a beautiful intro. And gosh, you're going to make me cry just hearing about Jess like that too.
I know, and it's actually, it's funny because every time it's not funny, there's nothing funny about it. I don't know why I said that. But it's every time I think about her or I talk to somebody about her or the people that she loved, I get the same. I get this wave of emotion, and I think it's a beautiful thing for us to be able to share ourselves, what we do, how we do it, so that then, kind of the legacy continues in terms of what she wanted for all of us. And what she wanted was just bliss and beauty, And again, as I say, you're a shining example of that. So tell our listeners a little bit about you and your own personal journey so that then they can get a sense of what a spectacular human being you are.
I'll try. A few years ago, I was living a very different life. I was finishing off uni. I was modelling. I was working in hospitality. I was teaching deportment and modelling courses as well. So I was living a fast life, I guess, and partying and all of those things that you do in your early 20s. And I was never taking care of myself, that's for sure. I sort of never really even thought about the type of food I was putting into my body, unless I had a pimple or something like that. And then I might consider, cutting out sugar or something for a day or two until I craved it the next day.
Oh, yeah, welcome to the club.
And when I finished uni, I decided that I wanted to go and model overseas. And when I checked with my agency in Brisbane here in Australia, I was with Vivian's Model Management for quite a few years. They said I couldn't go overseas. I had to go down to Sydney first and model down there. But I didn't want to go to Sydney. I wanted to go to Germany and Italy and beautiful places that I'd never been before. So I went on my own anyway, and I took my mum with me for a month for a beautiful girls trip, and I went around to agencies myself, and I got an agency in Germany and an agency in Italy, and I worked over there for months and absolutely loved it. But I was always, once again, just pushing myself to the limit, I think. I'm one of those people that, like most of us, I think, a bit of a people pleaser and didn't want to let other people down. So I was always working too much and just not listening to my body, really. And my boyfriend at the time came over and he, as he got back on the plane after visiting me for Christmas and New Year, he looked at me and he said, "You look done." And I said, "Oh, I know, I'm a bit tired, but I'm going to push through because I'm having a great time and I want to make the most of this opportunity." So I stayed and I kept pushing and pushing. And then I walked into my agency in Italy one morning and the booker there said, "Oh, you've got a lump on your neck." And I didn't think anything of it because it didn't hurt. I was feeling fine. And I used to wear my handbag across my shoulders. So right where the lump was is exactly where my handbag sort of rubbed. So I just thought it was a little bit of inflammation, I think.
Do you think that potentially your handbag could have been the cause of the lump, or it was just coincidental?
No, just coincidental, I think. It was just me blowing it off, really.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, fair enough. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I just was curious about that.
No, that's okay. So then when I came home a couple of weeks later, I eventually went to the doctors about this lump because it was still there. And he sent me for a blood test and an ultrasound. And I went back in to get those results a week later, and I just went in on my own because I didn't think anything of it. And he sat me down and he said, "I think you've got lymphoma." I said, "Oh, yeah, what's that?" He said, "Oh, it's a cancer in the lymphatic system." And that really shocked me, as you can probably imagine.
I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt you there, my darling. So when they have results like that, and if we do have any GPs or doctors listening, wouldn't it be beautiful to know that with delivering news like that you at least are asked to bring somebody with you? Or, I cannot believe, did he seriously not say, "I advise you to bring someone with you"?
No, I mean, the call was just from the receptionist saying, "Your results are in. Do you want to come in and get them?" It wasn't, there was no warning at all.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not good enough.
I am astounded by that.
No.
I think that it's such a sensitive situation and can be potentially so emotional. I remember when I got news that I had to have my ovaries out, and the doctor said, "We won't know if they're cancerous or if the tumours are cancerous until they're removed." I remember feeling white. I felt the blood rush from my head, and I was so grateful that I had Matt there with me, because I don't know how I would have coped. And I remember saying to the doctor, "Well, I've been blown up. I can handle anything." But even that was just like a defense mechanism. But I can't even begin to imagine what it would have been like for somebody so young and not even really having a frame of reference of what that would be like. How did you respond to that?
I clenched every muscle in my body, just doing whatever I could not to cry. And somehow I made it to my car and bawled my eyes out once I got there. Yeah, I never knew anyone that had gone through cancer, really, except for, a distant grandparent. I didn't know anyone my age that was going through something like that. And
did you understand it? Did you understand what was going on, or was it?
No, to be honest, hearing that word cancer just made me go numb, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand it, and he didn't really offer much of an explanation, to be honest. He just said, we'll get you in to see an oncologist, and that happened a month later.
A month, a whole month.
That's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
God. Okay, I'm just going to put this out there. If there are any doctors listening, pick your act up. Sorry.
It would have been nice to have someone there.
What's that?
It would have been nice to have someone there to have taken, my partner with me.
Oh, my God. Anyway.
Amanda, so in that month, in that month that you had, just, first of all, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Who did you ring? What did you do to actually get home? Because I can imagine driving would have been quite a blur. And then what did you do over that month? Did you do any research? Did you start trying to work it out? Did you have family all come in? What happened in your community, your tribe?
The first thing I did was call my mum, which is a pretty hard call to tell your mum that you've, that news. And then I called my partner as well. And then I had to drive home. So I kind of took all of my courage, I guess, that I could muster and just, took that next step to get home.
And then what did you do?
So from there, I started researching. So I was really lucky to have such positive people around me. Dave, my partner, was incredible, and he never thought for a second that I wasn't going to get through it, or he certainly never let me think that anyway. And I just started Googling things. I needed to do something to feel like I had a little bit of control over the situation, I suppose. So I started researching how it could have happened, what lymphoma was, what I could do to help my body. And I came across so many inspiring stories of people that were treating things naturally or, getting through things. I found a whole... Yeah.
Sorry, sweetheart. Just tell us what your cancer was and how it affects people. And is it a healable cancer? Obviously it is with what you've done, but can you just give us a little bit of knowledge around what it is?
Yeah, sure. So it's Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's actually one of the cancers that does affect young people as well as old people. It's quite curable with chemotherapy, and it affects the lymphatic system. So for me, by the time I had conventional treatment, it was a stage 4, so it was in quite a few different areas of the body, which is quite common with lymphoma because the lymphatic system, it flows everywhere. So it's similar to leukemia. It's kind of classed in that blood disorder area.
Right. And what's the difference between Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's?
Non-Hodgkin's covers a whole range of other lymphomas. So there's Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then there's all these other ones that they just call non-Hodgkin's.
Okay.
I don't really know the difference, to be honest.
This is where we need Cindy on the line, but maybe we can come in.
Well, I think it gives us something that we can look into anyway, because I'm sure that's a question that some of our listeners would be asking, because I was thinking the same thing, Kimmy.
Well, while you're carrying on, shall I just try and Google something while we're talking?
Well, hold the line, please, caller, and I say you go for
it. Carry on. So what did you do in that month?
I read all this stuff online, and I just started making changes. So some of the stuff that came up for me, and we can find anything online, can't we? So I just tried to trust that whatever I was coming across was what I needed to read at the time, and the books that people were giving me and that sort of thing was what I needed. So I went vegan. I started meditating. I just created a really nice healing kind of sanctuary at home as well. My partner was really beautiful at just protecting me a little bit more from people, and I found that quite a number of friends were very fearful, as you can imagine, but I couldn't really be around it at that time. I just needed to stay really positive. And so, cut out chemicals from the household as well, and skincare products that were full of awful things. And just tried to create a really nice healing environment and focus on getting through the next day and knowing that I was doing whatever I could to get better.
It's interesting that you had this innate intelligence inside of yourself, that self-care. And as you've said before this call even started, nurturing yourself and being gentle with yourself. How did you know that was going to be the best approach to help you not only come to terms with what you were going through mentally, but also to help your body heal physically? How did you know that would be the way to go? Because a lot of people, and I know them, a lot of people will just set about mass distraction. so that then they're completely distracted from the issue. They don't have to think about it, and they think that if I don't look at it, it's not there.
Yeah.
How did you know to go the direct opposite?
It's a good question, because I was never brought up with natural. I was never brought up with natural health or any of that side of things. I don't know. It must have just been something, like you said, that was inside me. I was really lucky to have Dave, I think. He was sort of on a mission, I think, to get me well. And so we were kind of doing it together as a team, which made a big difference. And I came across those beautiful, inspiring stories of other people that were doing things and getting through things, and that's what they needed to do. So it just made sense to me, to be honest,
How long
be
ago
gentle.
was
That was almost 5 years ago now.
5 years ago. So did you know Jess then?
I didn't know her then. I was introduced to her through a mutual friend not long after I was diagnosed, and we were just so excited to find each other, to know that there was someone else out there, young, kind of going through this.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, what age would that have put you at?
I was 24 at the time.
So young.
I know,
Yeah.
it's right. You can't imagine it, can you? Most people are planting their future, they're meeting future husbands, they're partying, they're travelling, they're working, climbing up the corporate ladder. I mean, it must be the biggest lightning bolt right into your heart, core and being that you can ever imagine. It astounds me. I've got another question for you, but before I ask you that, both Hodgkin's disease, sometimes referred to as Hodgkin's lymphoma, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma are cancers that originate in a type of white blood cell known as a lymphocyte, an important component of the body's immune system. Both of these malignancies may cause similar symptoms, but the conditions themselves are different. The distinction between Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is made up upon examination of the cancerous material from a biopsy or aspiration of the tumour tissue. The type of abnormal cells identified determines whether it is one or the other. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is much more common than Hodgkin's disease. In the United States, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is the 6th most common cancer among males and the 5th most common cancer among females. Furthermore, the incidence of non-Hodgkin's has been steadily increasing over the last decades. So what I want to know is, what causes it? Do you know?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it, for any any of those cancers? I mean, there's been a correlation that what the doctors told me is that there is some kind of a correlation that they've found between glandular fever and Hodgkin's, and I did have glandular fever when I was younger. They haven't said that it causes that, though. I mean, to me, it seems like it's just the way we're living our life these days. We're not taking care of ourselves. We're polluting our body.
You were in quite a stressful, full-on, charging, partying life. I mean, I don't know about you, Kaz, but the more we do these podcasts and the more we interview beautiful young souls and different people, I don't know whether the universe is creating the Jesses and the Amandas of the world to help us all to wake up and realise that our bodies are not designed to party. Now, maybe when we were younger, the different chemicals in our foods and our environment, maybe it's got more and more prevalent from our great-grandparents' age right through to now. There is no doubt there is more and more chemicals and things like that in our environment and our foods. But I think your story and Jess's story and people like you girls are such a stark reminder for me as a mum, not only to be the example to my children, but to remind them of the importance of self-care, even when you're a partying girl, or a partying boy, that if you are going to have a night out, then, if you are going to drink, you've got to do simple things like making sure you drink plenty of water and rest, and the next day give yourself a day to recover if that's your choice. Preferably, I guess a lot of mums would be saying, or don't do it at all, but we all know that the reality is that's not reality for a lot of young people. What would be, you're now 30, what would be your advice looking back to your younger 24-year-old or maybe 20-year-old self? What's your thoughts now and I know we haven't gone through your recovery and that part of the story. I'm just interested in who you were when you found out what you had to now who you are having recovered from it or survived with it or thrived with it. What would be your advice?
My advice would be just to be gentle with yourself, to tune in and take care of yourself, because I really believed that I was invincible and felt like I had to push. I felt like to succeed in life, we've got to push and achieve as much as possible and get as much as possible. And I would just remind myself that it's okay to say no, and it's okay to take a breath and tune in and relax.
So how do you tell a 10-year-old to do that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's almost impossible at that age, isn't it? I mean, because you're 10 foot tall, bulletproof, and you know everything.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and that's why I teach courses for teen girls now, and that's a big reason behind it, is because I just want to at least plant a seed that they do have to take responsibility for their health, and they do have to take care of themselves. They can still be bulletproof and still achieve whatever they want to achieve, but they also, if they want to do that and they want to keep going, they've got to look after themselves too.
Nice.
Yes. So what if you were to look back on it, and I know that we're asking really challenging questions, but maybe there's a book in this. As you look back with the wisdom of hindsight and you look back at the experience that you went through, a lot of us apply meaning to what we experience. What sort of meaning have you applied to your cancer?
It changed everything for me. I mean, I'm so grateful to have gone through it. I certainly wouldn't wish it upon anyone, but it changed my whole life, and it really awakened me to a whole new world and a way of living. And as I said, I'm so grateful for that. It also really, it got me thinking about faith and the bigger picture and the type of life I would be leaving for future generations as well. It really made me consider the type of world I wanted to leave behind as well.
You're beautiful, Amanda. You're such a gentle soul. And I think, Karen, what you just said is, there is such a book here, my darling. But what would you say, let's go back to when you had your beautiful experience of connecting. So as much as the experience was hideous and frightening, there sounds like there was a real beautiful experience of connecting and drawing in with your beautiful family. What did you guys do over the next... I love your story about retreating and everything. Can you tell us what you've been doing over the last 5 years, or what happened from there leading to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so once I did meet with the oncologist and heard about the different treatments available and that sort of thing, I decided to treat it naturally for a year. It was just something that felt right for me at the time. And so in that moment, we just simplified as much as we could. My partner sold up. He had an apartment that he owned. He sold that so that he could just look after me. And so we tried a few different natural treatments and focused on healing for about a year. And during that time, I was having CT scans as well, and the tumours were reducing. But about a year into that journey, a new tumour had come up and it was pressing against my spinal cord, and the doctors said that I would be in a wheelchair in a week if I didn't do something drastic. And to be honest, I didn't believe them at the time because I was so focused on doing it my way. I was quite stubborn.
When you say naturally, Amanda, what did you do specifically?
So I found a couple of doctors that were happy to at least point me in the right direction. It's a little bit difficult, I think, to go down the natural path because there isn't that structured guidance and there isn't the research and that sort of thing. But I tried something called Protocell, which quite a few people had success with, and a doctor had a patient that had success with it as well, and sort of said, why don't you try this? And it acts in a similar way to chemotherapy, but it's all natural, but it fights the cancer cells and it breaks them down, and you can pass them through the body. That's the way that it's explained anyway. So I did that, and I did lots of juicing, and I saw another doctor who got me onto a diet that was 100% raw and no sugar, and so it was just vegetables and nuts and seeds and those sorts of things. And
wow.
In that first month, actually, I went to Thailand and did a fast, a week-long fast where you do coffee enemas twice a day and juices every day. And so I felt like I was just trying to clean my body and give it the best chance to heal, I suppose, and create that really beautiful environment inside so that my body could do what it needed to do.
And do you feel like you did that? Do you feel like even if it wasn't the ultimate solution to heal the cancer, do you feel like it prepared your body to handle what it was about to go through?
Yes, definitely. A few people have said to me, do you wish that you had just done the chemotherapy straight away? Do you wish you'd just gone for that because you needed it in the end anyway? But I really believe that that's exactly what it did for me. It did prepare my body to be in a position to handle what was coming. And it certainly gave me the tools and the knowledge to be able to repair my body afterwards as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what's your greatest learning from that for you personally?
The biggest thing for me was trusting myself, to be honest. Everyone has an opinion and there's so much advice out there, and doctors will tell you what they believe to be the best thing as well. But as we know from so many different people's experience, what works for some doesn't work for others. And it was a real lesson in learning to trust my own instincts and go, well, doing the natural route feels right for me right now. And then when I needed to do the conventional treatment, then I did that, and it worked. And we still did it in our way, I suppose. We moved down to Brisbane from the Sunshine Coast that afternoon after getting that CT scan, and we bought a little caravan and we put it on the back of a meditation centre, and we lived in the caravan for the whole time, just because we wanted a simple way to live so that we weren't worrying about cleaning the house and all those things that would have just added an extra level of stress. And it was incredible.
What an amazing man you have.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
delicious.
she's a bit special.
Oh my goodness. He's a keeper for sure.
Yeah,
He is hello Christmas, New Year, Good Friday and Easter Sunday, I must say.
And then after all of that, we still needed to retreat further, and more for him, to be honest. I think it took him a longer time to recover from all of that than it did me, because once I started to get my energy back, I was so excited to be able to walk again and do all sorts of things again. But for him, to spend 2 years supporting me and being positive for me and making me laugh every single day and taking care of me, he just collapsed at the end of that 2 years. And so we then moved the caravan to a block of land without any power or water or sewage or anything, and we got rid of the caravan, and then we got a recycled shipping container, and we just lived totally off the land for a year to completely relax and get back in tune with nature, and that was a really incredible experience.
And now how old were you when you did that?
So that would have been about 26, 27.
Shut the front door. What a huge decision to go off the grid at that age. I'm astounded by you, Amanda. I'm astounded by you and your beautiful partner to make a decision like that at such a young age, I'm totally blown away, and it must have been fabulous. I mean, I flirt with that now, and I think bring that on, but I don't have anything, obviously that makes living that way a necessity like you did. But I'm floored that you knew to do this, and obviously just immersed yourself in it fully and reaped the benefit of it, no doubt.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was incredible, and to realize that you don't need a lot of stuff. We didn't have hot water. We didn't even have a toilet. We had a little camp toilet, and Dave had to empty that every couple of days.
No way. You're kidding.
Are you still excited, Tazza? Yeah, I can hear you.
No, just lost me there. Just lost me there. No, see, if I'm going to go off the grid, I do still have to be able to take my GHD hair straightener. Just putting it in.
And that was a big realisation for us too, is that if you want to do it properly and you do want those little luxuries, then you need a lot of money and you need to do it totally different. But for us, and being young too and not having any expectations, we just, like you said, we immersed ourselves in it. Now I look back and go, I couldn't do that again.
Yeah.
I loved it for that period.
So, darling, I just want to ask you brought up a really good point, which I think a lot of our listeners will really want to hear a little bit more about. And I think often, not taking anything away from the person who gets diagnosed or finds out something, a bit like you too, Kaz, with everything you went through, a lot of emphasis obviously stays on the person at the centre of everything, which is so important. But I think what gets missed, or perhaps there's another role for another layer of friends or family again, is to make sure that the carer or the carers are actually cared for too. And the reason why I talk about that is a girlfriend of mine, there was a group of us who had all just had babies. They had 1-year-olds and I had a 4-month-old. And we're all still pretty tired and getting through our thing. And out of the blue, this particular night, I still remember I was sitting there in New Zealand eating Vogel's toast. I had Vegemite and avocado on Vogel's toast. I so remember it.
Ooh.
And my girlfriend rang me and she said, I don't eat Vegemite, by the way, anymore. But anyway, I was eating Vegemite.
Is it nice with avocado?
Loved it. Anyway, she turned around. There's a natural Vegemite, by the way, that I can give you the recipe for. Anyway, but she turned around and I got the phone call and my girlfriend said, and she was in tears, and one of our other girlfriends in our group, her husband at 35 years of age had just suddenly dropped dead from a heart attack. And I think it's same for you, Amanda, at our age with you just, for a start, that's just not in our community. It's not normal, as you say. There's not other people young going through these things. And I remember my girlfriend Lizzie, and she just became Barb's number one carer and, made sure she was okay. And I swear to you, that girl within a year, she actually had another lady ring her, worried that she had cancer. That was frightening the way this person said it, but she turned around, she said, you look so terrible, you look like you've got cancer. And that was a shock in itself, the way that lady said that. So, but It did make us look at Lizzie and just say, oh my gosh, you're burning. She had a young baby herself. So what then I took on the role was, oh my gosh, I actually have a role here. I can look after my darling Lizzie. So I went into caring for the carer because I knew that Barb depended on her. So in the same way that probably your family and friends would have seen that you really depended and needed Dave, maybe the lesson from all of this is that we can teach people that people then need to look out for the Daves, that next inner circle. Would you agree?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And he was quite and I think sometimes you have to force that a little bit because he felt like that was his role, and he probably said no a few too many times as well. Whereas, he really did need that extra care, and that's my biggest regret of that period, actually. And I know that I probably wasn't in a state to think of those things, but I wish I had, because he did need that support, and I didn't think to ask people to give it to him either.
Well, I don't think that was your role, and neither would it have even been it's not that your intention was not to think of him, but I don't even think your focus was fully on healing. But And I think when I look at it, how do we look after the carers? Well, that is bringing them a meal or checking in or saying, how about, I come and sit with Amanda. Well, why don't you go and have a surf or a walk, or how about you go and have a massage, or can I bringing dinner sometimes, or, bringing a movie, or just doing things to keep the humour and the sense of connection there for them, or just the ability to have a good sleep or something. Now, I know usually the carer doesn't want to be too far from the person they're caring for either. So I don't know. It could come in all sorts of shapes, but I think more than anything, maybe nutrition and good meals is a really good starting point.
Definitely, yeah. If someone had brought food around for him, or fed the dog, just really simple things would have made a big difference, I think.
Yeah. So, sweetheart, tell me what did that, after that year, like when did you decide that the year was up, or was it always going to be just a year, or did you just kind of go with the seasons and feel like the time was right? What happened then?
Yeah, it was just a feeling. We got to a point where we were just starting to feel a bit too removed from the world. You needed to put your four-wheel drive in low range to even get there. It was way out in the sticks. So we just were starting to feel like it was time to get back out into the world. And I felt really recovered and had a new lease on life, to be honest, after going through everything. And so I wanted to get out into the world, and I wanted to share what I'd learned. And so it didn't feel like the right place to be anymore. So we then, sorry?
What did you do?
So then we sold the shipping container. We were renting a block of land to put that container on for $50 a week that we found on Gumtree. So we couldn't stay there forever anyway. So then we
blows me away.
I know. It's just Gumtree. Those moments. I'm sure you couldn't find something like that if you just went and had a look today, but it just all lined up perfectly for us to have that experience, I think.
And
so
did you
then
move
then we moved. We moved into a rental up in the mountains, and then we decided we wanted to be on the beach, so we lived in a duplex on the beach for a little while at Sunshine Beach, and we've just built a house at Yamundi, so we've gone back to trying to do things really simply, but with a few more extra luxuries like hot water and electricity.
Oh, good grief, those are luxuries. Bless your little heart. But so in terms of where you're at now, what's the situation for you now? Are you healed? Are you recovered? I mean, what's the state that you're in right now?
Yes, so I'm in remission. So I go to the hospital once a year now to have a checkup. But I'm feeling incredible, feel the best that I've ever felt. And we're both just working from home now. We've got our veggie patches going here and are doing the work that we feel we need to in the world.
So tell us what an average day looks like for somebody like you. What's a day look like? What's a day in the life of you?
Okay, I get up when my puppy starts hassling me at about 6:30.
Yeah, what sort of dog have you got?
A Staffy.
Oh, we love those.
Very cute, yeah. So we get up. Dave stays in bed. We get up and we go for a big walk, and we go down to the creek and have a bit of a play around in the water and a bit of a wander around. And then we'll come back in and make a smoothie or some kind of a juice, and just slowly get into the day. So I might do a little bit of yoga or meditation, have breakfast on the deck with Dave, and then I'll get into work. Every day is different because I do quite a few different things, but I've got an office at home, so I can work from home, and I'll quite often go out and teach at schools or a local community, and I do a bit of coaching too, so I do that online from home, and I still do a bit of modelling, but just for eco-friendly and ethical brands. So I'll go to Sydney a few times a year and do some shoots with some different clients. So every day is different, but it usually starts nice and gentle.
Nice and gently. That's beautiful. So no alarms waking you up and your hair on fire and racing through the house and causing all sorts of havoc. Good grief. So what sort of work do you do in the world? I mean, I know you mentioned that you're still modelling and you're doing counselling, but explain a little bit more about the kind of things that you're doing and for who you do them for.
Okay, so I do a bit of coaching for women. It's called Gentle Living Coaching. So I help women who want to find a bit more peace in their life, want to calm down a little bit, declutter, and who want to get really clear on their goals, but do it in a way that doesn't feel like it's another chore and another thing to keep up with. And I've got a school called Shine From Within. So this is my real passion project. It's where I teach courses and workshops for teen girls, and we cover everything from natural skincare and makeup and posture and job interview skills. So my background was actually teaching in deportment sort of subjects, and I do believe that these girls coming through, they still need that stuff. They need to learn about how to introduce themselves to someone and how to present themselves to the world. And so I covered those subjects, but with more of a natural twist. So all natural skincare and mineral makeup, and then we do a lot about wellness and self-love as well, so that they feel like they can do anything in the world and that, you know, they're worth looking after.
Is that a hard thing to break into? What do you think what's your feelings around young women these days, and why are you so passionate about this? And do you sense there's a big problem?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard going through those teen years, and sometimes I think parents forget that we all struggled going through our teen years in one way or another. But for the girls today, I mean, they've got so many extra pressures, I think, and things that they're dealing with when it comes to social media and bullying and all of those things. I see it's really evident in the young girls coming through today that they're struggling with positive body image and that self-worth. So it is a challenge, and it's something that I'm always trying to learn more about and help them in whatever way I can.
Your Shine From sorry, Keza.
No, if you're sorry.
Your Shine From Within courses are for what age group, and where would people go to find more out about them, and do you do them all over Australia?
I run a course for 10 to 12-year-olds, a tweens course, and a course for teens, so 13 to 17-year-old girls. At the moment, I run them on the Sunshine Coast. I do run some shorter workshops around Australia as well, but at the moment, parents are bringing their children from Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, Rockhampton. They're bringing their girls to the Sunshine Coast, and they usually bring their families and have a week-long holiday, and the girls come and spend the week with us.
How beautiful. And what do those courses look like? What do you do?
So we go from about 10 till 5 every day, and we cover everything from yoga, posture, introducing yourself, healthy eating. You know, they learn how to make green smoothies and they make bliss balls, and I've got lots of incredible teachers that come in and help as well, like Adele Veggie Head, she'll come in sometimes. Jess used to come in all the time. Beautiful yoga teachers. Kim's been in as well. We're very lucky to have you there as well. We've got organic hair care specialists too. We talk about dressing for your body shape and ethical fashion. We do a photo shoot on one of the days where they spend a whole day doing their own makeup and getting dressed up and really seeing how beautiful they are in the flesh. And that's just so incredible to see them see their image on the back of the camera straight after the photo's been taken and see their eyes light up and go, oh my God, I'm actually really beautiful, is just so incredible.
Oh, I think I get all teary even picturing it, and I'm sure the mums out there are feeling it. I would love to see your Shine From Within program. I mean, imagine if they made that a week-long project within schools, you know, that every year, I don't know whether it would be year 10 or 11 or 12, but I'd imagine around that year 10 would be quite an amazing year to do something like that as they head into the senior part of high school. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would be incredible.
I mean, Karen, can you picture it? I mean,
oh my goodness.
You know from a psychological, if you can see the beauty in yourself at around 15, then I think you carry that for the rest of your life. But if you see the ugliness, most women that see nothing but ugly, and I don't know why we see that, but when we see the ugly, there's a lot of work. There seems to be a little bit more work ahead to help discount that or discredit or to change that perspective, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. I think once you know that, well, I mean, it's physiological as well as it's emotional, because once those tracks are laid down about the fact that I'm fat or I'm ugly or I'm not lovable, you know, physiologically and neurologically, once those tracks are laid down, it becomes a habitual way of thinking, and it's happening unconsciously. It's like, you know, the more you run the same program, the program runs itself. So, yeah, I mean, you know, once you get a little bit older, it's a lot more work. Whereas if you can get somebody who is at a younger age, well, what bliss. I mean, to not have to battle through all of that.
Mm.
And Amanda, what would be your what's the greatest insights? You know, I mean, all three of us are speakers, as is our beautiful Cindy. You know, I don't know about you girls, but the greatest kick I get isn't the fact that I'm speaking, but it's watching sometimes ahas happen in a face, or seeing someone see a different perspective or a new possibility or a new opportunity for learning and growth. I mean, what's the biggest kick you get out of, and what's the greatest insights you have from teaching what you teach?
The biggest kick is seeing these girls really flourish throughout the week and grow and realize that they do have strengths to offer to the world, and realize that they are beautiful just as they are. Seeing those moments is what really gets me excited. And I learned so much from the girls too, to be really honest. You know, in our group discussions and when we're talking about relationships or friendships or what they're going through, you know, I always learn so much from them as well. They have such beautiful insights themselves. Even the 10-year-olds, they always blow my mind.
They're gorgeous, aren't they? I mean, look at our talk we did the other night together. We had 50 mums and daughters in the room, and Amanda and I presented a workshop together, and I can't begin to tell you what a privilege it is to be on stage with Amanda, but what a privilege it is to be able to be someone that is able to present some information that might help these mothers and daughters. And it was such a privilege to do that with you, and their little faces, and they're just such beautiful young women that just deserve to know how beautiful and exquisite they are.
And there was a young one who was about 10 or 11 who said her biggest aha moment was that we should trust ourselves. Isn't that what she said, that beautiful little girl?
Yes. So we asked at the end, Kaz, has anybody had an aha? And it was usually the whole way through the mums had been asking the questions, because the girls, you know, they're there with their mums, so they obviously, and even though we give permission to do it, there's also the courage to ask, and there's all of that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end I said, so has anybody had any ahas, and would anybody like to share maybe one of the daughters? And she just sat there, and I caught contact with her eyes, and then she kind of put her hand up, and I went, yes, and she goes, I think the biggest thing I've learned is that we just need to trust ourselves more.
Oh, I love it.
Amanda and I just looked at each other. I think I looked at Amanda, I wanted to high five her and go, our work is done. Our work is done. It was such a beautiful little moment. And then there was another gorgeous young woman, maybe around 17, who said, look, it's not so much that I've had an aha in here, but just knowing that I listened to your podcast. Do you remember that, Amanda?
Mm.
She said that she listens listens to our podcast, Kaz, and it's her trip on the way to, I think she's just finished school on the way to uni, and she said she learns so much from listening to having our beautiful guests like Amanda and even the conversations we have. And a part of me just went, oh my gosh, I mean, it's just such an effort sometimes for the three of us to get together, just with our work. But then when I realised that there are people out there that can't wait for every Tuesday morning to come along to download this. I mean, I personally can't wait to get together to record them. So if I'm feeling that, then I can only imagine what it must be like to download them. But to hear that, the privilege, the honour, and the absolute blissful feeling I get from knowing that that makes a difference in a young person's life is it's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it, Kaz?
Oh, look, I think that would be absolutely spectacular. I honestly, and I haven't, I've done one-on-one coaching, but I haven't done any group work with, the younger generation and our kids. And I think that would be so profound to be able to be a part of their journey at the platform stage, like at the beginning parts, so you can actually set them up for greatness as opposed to them just trying to wing it and do the best they can like we did, because I don't know that there was so much of this around when we were growing up. But I guess, well, actually the issues were the same back then as they are now, maybe a little bit more now. But I think that self-worth and self-love and being gentle with oneself, there was nothing like that when we were around. It was all, when we were growing up, it was just all about beat yourself to within an inch of your life and you be successful and you make that money and you build that house. It was all full on. So I think that the beautiful thing about what I'm hearing about what you two girls did the other night and what you continue to do is you give people, our younger girls, a choice and you let them know that there's more to life. I think that's just magical. I feel like I could just get lost in that.
It is. It's pretty powerful. And you know what, when Jess was still alive, when we were at her book launch down in Brisbane, this was one of the conversations that we actually had, was seeing the likes of Jess, Melissa Ambrosini, Amanda, and you, me and Karen doing a road trip. This was a conversation I'd had with Jess about the three younger women and the three more mature women sharing our experiences. And you know what, there's a part of me, I've just had goosepimples go over me, that we need to still honour that. And I think, the conversations we've all had with the likes of Jess, I think in order to honour her legacy, this might not be a bad thing that we could start to looking at creating, or maybe there's a listener who would like to manage the project or do something along these lines if they can see the worth in this. But I don't know, there could be a book, it could be a nationwide tour, it could be a specific podcast, I don't know. But there's certainly, I think there's a calling for it. And so on that note, Amanda, I want to ask you, the connection you made with Jess was, at the beginning of your journey. Tell us a little bit about that and what you two experienced together, and then more importantly too, how her passing, what effect that has had on you.
Jess has an incredible effect on everyone she meets, I think. And when we first met, it was I just went around to her house and her mum made me this beautiful lunch and a juice, of course, and we hit it off right away, which was incredible. And we just stayed in touch. We were both starting a little blog because we felt like we needed to share what we were learning along the way, and we just had so many great laughs together. We would hang, because we lived quite close to each other as well, so we'd have beautiful lunches and that sort of thing pretty regularly. And then the more that we found other beautiful women doing positive stuff around the place, we kind of got this little group together, and we'd have mastermind retreats and stuff together, which was incredible. And we went around Australia talking about self-love and sisterhood at one point, which was really beautiful, incredible to share the stage with Jess and the other girls. And then towards the end, I just happened to be there with her the day before, and that was amazing. Just hanging out with her, and she was laughing and carrying on, and was eating this big burger, I think, at the time. And I honestly didn't think what happened was going to happen. I never thought it would. She was so strong, and her beautiful partner was so strong the whole time as well, and so positive. But to be with her the day before, laughing, carrying on, she was talking about how how much she loves her dogs, as she always did, and Yvette said something. A friend of ours, Yvette Luciano, said, I don't think people realise how offensive it is when we start to compare our puppies to people's babies, but we just love our dogs so much, so we're having a really big laugh.
I understand that 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember I used to do the same. I used to do the same thing. I always used to see a brand new baby and I go, oh my goodness, that looks like my Dolly.
Yeah.
The brand new baby was so cute, and my little Dolly was also incredibly cute. I get that.
Yeah. I'm sure for the parents, they're probably going, I think my baby's cuter.
Yes, true. I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, to have that memory with her is something I'll always treasure. And I've got this letter stuck up on my wall just next to me, actually, that she wrote me, just saying, what does it say? Mandy, you're seriously one of the most beautiful people I've met. So, to be able to look up at that every day when I'm sitting at my desk is such an inspiration, and reminds me of what a beautiful light she was in the world, and whatever we can do to honour her and keep her beautiful message going. I think it's important that we do that.
Amanda, you know very well the trauma and everything she went through from not the traumatic abuse she would receive along her journey. What is your thoughts around, and of course, the Belle Gibson thing, and there's a lot of backlash going on at the moment around the whole natural alternative world. What's your message to people out there that, that still believe in this path? What's your thoughts around orthodox and alternate care? Give us a little insight on that.
What I've always believed is that, we have to do whatever's right for us. And the best thing we can do is tune in to what feels good for us, get as much information as we can. But ultimately trust yourself, because we are all different. And I think there's a place in the world for natural therapies, for conventional treatments. They all work. It's just finding the right mix for you. And the biggest thing that I think will always carry through, and what will ultimately be what heals us, is the belief that we're going to be okay. So as long as you believe in what you're doing and are doing your best, then that's all you can do.
So Jess believed she was going to be okay right up until I don't imagine that she didn't think she wasn't ever going to be okay. It was never in her radar. What's your thoughts around that? That in the end she didn't go beyond 29 years of age. So how do you answer that?
I think personally, I think that's where. I mean, I think it all happened perfectly for her life. That's maybe where it was supposed to end for her. She was here to be that beautiful angel for so many years, and be that beacon of light, and encourage people to take care of themselves. And maybe that was her work done. Maybe it was time for her to go and be with her mummy and find that peace.
Amanda, I think you're spot on there. I think it's not for any one of us to actually say, what keeps a person alive or what doesn't keep a person alive. I think what we've got to work with is our mind and our body and our spirit. And if we can be 100% committed, then, you know, I think of this, and I remember what you and Cindy were explaining to me, Kim, you know, when you were there for Jess's last hours and the day that she'd had before with you, Amanda. You know, she was in her greatest experience of life. She kept believing she was going to be okay. She was convinced of that. And I think that that's a far better way to experience life, whether you're living or you're dying. I think it doesn't actually, you know, if every human being could be experiencing life on the edge like she was, with such belief of extraordinariness and such inside of their own personal magnificence in every moment, then it's not quantity, it's quality. And it's not, you know, it's not something that any of us can control in terms of when our last breaths will be taken. But I think we can certainly determine how we live every moment based on the mind, the body, and the spirit, and being completely committed to the most extraordinary experience of all three, because one doesn't function without the other. So to just think it's about the food is remiss, and to just think it's about the mind is remiss, and to just think it's about the spirit is remiss. It's a holistic approach, which I think Jess was a classic example of just ending the war in all areas. Ending the war, ending the fight, ending the battle, and just being completely in love with the ride. And I think that was one of the greatest gifts that she's left as a legacy for us. And who's to know that she could have lived longer or should have gone earlier? It's not for us to, you know, we can't say. And I think that, you know, those that do, you know, have their say on that, you know, and that are quite vocal on that, you know, she could have done this better or she could have done that better. Well, I think, you know, just those people, just get back in your box chocolate. It's not for it's not for anybody to say when a person's expiry date is. Nobody can know that. All we can know is that we're doing the best that we personally choose to do for ourselves in any given moment. And full stop. Yeah. Full stop on that.
Yes.
I think too, just to finish up, I think the greatest gift that I've had from you, Amanda, and the greatest ahas I get, and being in your presence and even hearing your voice, and I'm sure people hearing it will feel that gentleness in you, is the reminder of self-care. Now, I teach self-care on a daily basis, and I think what I get from you more than anything is, I think often, and I'm sure mums out there listening to this will also hear what I'm saying, is that we think caring for others is caring for us, and we think looking after everybody else is good enough. But the reality is, and the truth is, and I think both of your messages would be the same, is that, you know, you don't need to get a bomb underneath you to wake up, and you certainly don't need to get cancer to wake up. But maybe the two beautiful souls that both you, Karen, and you, Amanda, are, is the reminder that if, you know, the messages and the people and the experiences that you have both shared is actually a very, very strong reminder that we don't have to have that in order, or we perhaps don't need to have that. You know, let's hear these stories for what they are. And I suggest all you mummies out there, you play this whole podcast to your daughters and your sons in the car, and really let them know that the reason why we want them to hear this is that self-care is the ultimate number one, and it's not selfish. It's not being selfish, it's being selfless. The more that we care for ourselves, in fact, the more we have to give to others. So in fact, it's a gift to everybody else. We just need to keep our perspective around what that means in self-care. So nourish, honour, and truly value and revere the bodies that we have instead of beating up on them. Really look at how we can tune out and tune into the world. And I mean tuning out by just, you know, surrendering and just being in touch with source, with one, with self, and that it's okay. That loneliness is actually an opportunity to find yourself, because if we're truly loving ourselves, you will never experience the feeling of loneliness. In fact, being alone and quiet is usually the time when we find ourselves. And sometimes that's by having a bomb blown up, or by getting a pretty scary disease, or a cancer that actually is those quiet moments that has us look within. Well, this podcast, I would like to suggest, is one of those moments, thanks to you, Amanda, that we really do use this as a chance to look within and never feel lonely. If we can find those moments and change the perspective of using it as self-reflective and learning time, then I think that would be the greatest gift that you've given me. So thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this has been an amazing interview. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. What an absolute honor. And if people want to find you, is there a particular website that they can go to, or is there some idea that you can give us as to, in terms of where we can send people?
Yes, my website's amandarootsey.com.au, and the school that I run is shinefromwithin.com.au.
And you've got a beautiful Instagram page, which is Amanda Rootsey as well. So follow her.
Beautiful. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and for joining us here today. Hopefully you have just loved this interview as much as we have. Make sure that you track Amanda down, and, you know, out of everything, take this away, that being gentle with yourself is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. And if you don't believe you're worthy of that, then you've only got to, you've really got to do the work. And that's where, well, that's where working with somebody like Amanda is where the transformation occurs. So ask yourself 2 questions. Am I prepared to give myself the gift of gentleness? And if the answer is no, I don't deserve it, I need to bust my ass and whip myself, then get onto Amanda's website and make an appointment to see her. That's all I have to say about that. So go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat and post your comments and questions, and we'll pass them along to Amanda. Or if there's anything more that you want to hear or know, this is the time to raise those questions. You can also post your comments at allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat. I did it again. It's allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat. Kimmy, stop it. We're going to see you here next week on Up for a Chat, where you get to be part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We love having you on the ride. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.